Today on Inside Utah Politics, the race for U.S. Senate. The seat hasn't been open for more than 4 decades. We're checking in with Governor Mitt Romney and Salt Lake County Councilwoman Jenny Wilson to find out why they want the job. Plus, are you willing to raise the gas tax to help fund education in Utah? That's what ballot question 1 is asking. Our panel will debate the pros and cons.
Time now for Inside Utah Politics.
Good Sunday morning, and thanks so much for joining us for Inside Utah Politics. I'm Glenn Mills. We begin this morning with the race to replace Senator Orrin Hatch. Governor Mitt Romney is the Republican nominee in the race. Governor, welcome back to the show. Glad to have you with us.
Thanks, Glenn. Good to be with you.
So when this opening came up, what was it that attracted you to it?
Well, there's a lot going on in the world and in the country that is turbulent and gives concern to people. There are also some extraordinary opportunities for Utah and for the country. And I think my experience and perspective will be helpful in Washington. I think we need more people of sober judgment there, and I hope I'm one of them.
If you are one of them, what could Utahns expect from you as a senator?
You're going to see me fight very hard to make sure we don't keep on spending massively more than we take in, moving us towards a balanced budget. You're also going to see me working very hard to get a lot of what the federal government does to be turned back to the state so the state can have responsibility for roads, caring for the poor, health care, public lands. All of these things really ought to be in state control rather than in federal control.
I want to get more into the spending in just a bit, but first I want to get your take on something I've noticed from you the last few days, and that is you're spending time with other candidates down ticket and doing some outreach with them. What's the strategy behind that?
Well, one, I want to see other Republicans successful because I could be more effective if there are other Republicans who have a similar view and positions of leadership. At the same time, turnout is what it's all about. If someone who's running for state representative can get people to turn out, that helps me. And if I can get people to turn out, that helps him or her. So yeah, it's about activating the voters in our respective parties.
I've heard you say before when we were talking the primary election, though, that you want people to get to the polls whether they vote for you or not. Just the importance of getting out and being involved in the process.
Yeah, I hope people recognize that while it may be true that one vote will not necessarily decide my race, it does decide whether or not you're accepting the extraordinary sacrifice that was made so that we have the right to vote. I think that's the reason, well, I know it's the reason that I vote so regularly, is because I want to make sure that the records show I said thank you to the people who made the ultimate sacrifice to give me that right.
You appear in a campaign ad for Representative Mia Love. Are you concerned about that race and it potentially flipping to the Democrats?
Oh, it's a tight race, no question about that. And that's one of the reasons I think that she's asked me to help in her campaign, and I've known her for some time and respect her, so I was delighted to be able to help.
Let's move on to the SCOTUS process. You came out and said you would have voted for Judge Kavanaugh. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the process, though. It really became very partisan. Your thoughts on that and how you can work against that if you go to Washington?
Yeah, it really it was interesting. Right from the very beginning, people dug in very hard. The opposition said, hey, look, we'll never confirm this guy. We're going to oppose him with everything we have. It's like, wait a second, isn't this supposed to be a process of getting to know people and learning what their positions might be and how they would look at various issues? That was thrown out the window. And that's really a very unfortunate level of partisanship associated with the confirmation process. And also there were, as you know, accusations that came out very late in the process. So I'd like to see the process change if we possibly could.
Is it possible? Do you see it becoming more civil?
Well, I think the civil approach is going to be difficult, but worthwhile pursuing. I do think it makes sense to say that members of the Judiciary Committee, as well as members of the respective parties, need to make any accusations or any challenges well before the public process unfolds, so that there's plenty of time for the FBI to carry out investigations in a timely manner.
Let's move on to the spending that you referred to a little bit earlier. Entitlement spending makes up the majority of spending here in our country. I heard you at a candidate forum that I was also moderating earlier in the week talk a little bit about that. You said one thing you were looking into would be age eligibility for Social Security. What are you willing to change in that avenue?
Well, first of all, nothing with regards to those that are current retirees or those that are in their 60s that are getting ready for retirement. You don't change the deal when people have relied upon those promises. And one of the things I find most reprehensible in politics these days is typically people on the other side of the aisle saying, oh, Republicans are going to change Social Security and Medicare, and they scare our seniors, which is simply wrong. No one in my party that I know of, and certainly not me, would change Medicare or Social Security for current retirees or near retirees. But for young people, 30s, 40s, and 50s coming along, they need to understand that we may need to increase the retirement age by 1 to 2 years. And higher income people may not get as big a benefits as lower income people. These changes would make sure the programs are solvent long term.
Yeah, I wanted to hit on that, the means, you know, how much you needed as well. At what point do you draw that line between higher and lower income people? And higher income people are still paying into it their whole lives. They just won't get as much out of it when they go to retire?
Well, there are two approaches to say how can we make sure that Social Security and Medicare are there for 30 and 40-year-olds. One is to substantially raise their taxes. We could increase FICA. My guess is they'd not favor that course, and I think that would be detrimental to the economy. The other is to say for people who are relying almost exclusively on Social Security and Medicare to provide for themselves, they'll continue to see the growth in benefits over the years that they've expected. But for people of higher income, they wouldn't see as fast a growth, and that, I think, is a better way to balance the need.
As someone who fits in the range that you're talking about in my 40s, I'm concerned about whether it will be there for me, and I know people my age and younger are as well. You're a business guy. You've dealt with budgets your whole career. Do you see this as something that we can get into check?
I think there's a shot for a grand compromise, like there was back in the days of Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan, where they came together and said, okay, how can we save Social Security? And they found a way. They increased the retirement age. And I think there's a shot for well-meaning Republicans and Democrats to say, okay, look, this is getting to be a concern. These programs are nearing bankruptcy. Young people wonder if they're going to be there for them. We need to make sure that we make some adjustments that get us where we need to be, so these programs are going to be solvent down the road.
Okay, we have about 1 minute left. I want to get into immigration. I know it's a big topic, but you're big on the impact that it has on our economy. So who stays under your view?
Well, the 1.8 million Dreamers all become legal residents of the U.S., and if they want to become citizens, they're able to apply for citizenship and move up the process to do so. I also believe it's critical that we have agriculture workers and hospitality workers that we might need on a temporary basis. I'd have the state say how many of those kind of visas we need as opposed to have the federal government allocate them out. I think we do a better job making a request for those things than the federal government does.
All right, Governor Romney, we're coming down the stretch. We will see how this all pans out in a couple of weeks. As always, appreciate your time on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Glenn. Good to be with you.
Stay with us. Coming up next, we're going to hear from Jenny Wilson, the Democratic challenger.